all my pieces out here for a dragon mask that I'm going to make. And I found this mask on Cricut Design Space. And this is how I found it. I just typed in 3D masks and all these came up, look. And this is the dragon one. And the instructions are there when you want to build it, but it's really simple to build. All you need to do is match up the numbers and all those bits. I did it all in one colour because I'm going to cover it with my own air dry clay to make it lovely and hard, and so I can paint it as well. That's what the dragon looks like, but look at all these other ones you've got. And they didn't cost me anything because I'm a member of Cricut. I'm not sponsored by Cricut in any way. Look, there's a unicorn. Might have to make that one for someone special soon. I'm going to fold them where they need to be folded, and it scores it and does it all for you anyway. So once I've got all those bits done like that, it'll make life so much easier to put together. Why didn't I keep these in the order that they came off though? That would have made life so much easier. But no, not me. I'm not going to make life easier for myself. Well, this is how far I've got. Now, I have to be totally honest with you. This is a lot bigger than what I thought it was going to be. But there you go. That's what you get for not taking measurements and looking at the measurements. The other thing is, it has taken me 4 hours so far to put this together, and that's because for the first 2 hours I was just trying to do it how I thought it should go and not follow the instructions. I took it all apart and now it's gone together really, really well. I've got a few more bits to put on, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's all together. Well, I finally finished it. It took me a long time, I have to say. It did speed up an awful lot once I started to read the instructions. Now, I'm happy with that. I think that looks great. It looks like a really good dragon, but I want to embellish this quite a lot. So I'm going to use my paper clay on it and also my paper mache recipe. But because this is a thick paper, if I put that directly on that, it's just going to soften this up and distort it all. So what I'm going to do first is go round and cover everything with masking tape, overlapping everywhere to ensure that it's got a really good coverage. And what that'll do is that will protect that paper against any of the water that's in the paper mache when I put that on. And it shouldn't take too long to cover this. What it'll also do is it'll help give this a little bit more rigidity as well. It's completely covered in tape now, and actually that didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. In some places I've put 2 layers on, and what I'm now going to do is to make it a lot more rigid and to give me a really good base is to cover it in this paper. This paper is the paper that I get when my Amazon parcels are delivered. So all I'm doing is putting that on all the way around, and then I'll leave that overnight to dry. And that should give me a much better surface, but also it will stiffen up this mask so I can do the next stage on it. Normally I would water down my glue a little bit, but because I'm doing this on mainly just card and on top of this tape, I haven't watered the glue down. It's neat from the bottle. Now this is all dry and it's dried overnight. What I want to do is go over this with some of my paper clay before I start to put any of the actual details that I want on it. Now this is an easy paper clay recipe, and the recipe is on my website for free, and there's also a video as well on it which I'll link at the end of this video. But it's really easy to make, goes on beautiful and dries lovely and hard. What this will do is it'll give me a great base to then start to add details to this with. It goes on, as you can see, really nice and easy. If you want to smooth it out, just dip your utensil that you're putting it on with in a little bit of water like this and give it a bit of a smooth over. And this will dry within probably about 4 or 5 hours, ready for me to do the next step. This is all lovely and dry now, and it's gone really, really hard. So it's given me a great base to start putting the details on. I've drawn where I want the eyes to go and these bits, and it draws on lovely and easy. This is where I'm going to ridge the horns, and obviously I'm going to put a nose on it. Now what I'm going to do a lot of these details with first is foil, because I don't have to wait for that to dry, and it'll also stick on really well. So I can sculpt this with foil first and just stick that on using my cordless glue gun. And then I can go over it afterwards with a thin layer of this paper mache and let that dry again. So put the details on. I'm now adding the foil, and it's really easy. All I do is I scrunch up some foil into the shapes that I want, and then using my glue gun, I glue that on where I've drawn my little guide that I want it to go. So I've got horns going all the way down here. That glue gun will hold that on well enough now for me to be able to cover that up. I've also made the eyes, and these was really simple. I used my silicone mold to make those, and I think they've made such effective eyes. And once they're painted, I think they're going to look quite menacing. And all I'm going to do is glue those on using some wood glue. I've got all my bits put on where I want them. I'm still going to put some texture on it. I also used some hot glue to give it some definition in certain places as well. I'm now going to cover all this foil in a brown paper. Before I put the brown paper on though, I am going to give it a quick spray of water like this to make sure it's wet. And that will allow me to mould it in a little bit better. And then what I can do is paint on my glue all the way around where I want it. And then cover the paper onto there like that. Making sure that that has gone all the way down. Now, I don't mind at all if there's any crinkles in it, because all that is going to do is add a little bit to the texture of it at the end. And we want him to be a bit gnarly, don't we? I have loved this. It's been a real passion. I've been wanting to do one of these for a long, long time. And now it's come to life. I can't wait to have it in my office, because that's where it's going to go as part of a backdrop for a new channel that I'll be launching. So keep an eye out for that as well. I've mixed up some of my own texture paste and modelling paste. If you want to know the recipe, then I'll link the video down below. It works really well and takes detail very, very well. And now what I'm going to do is start working around and giving it some more texture and putting a few more details on. And all I need to do is pop this on here like this, and this again will dry really hard. And if I want to smooth it out, I can smooth it out easily using a little bit of water, and it will smooth out lovely. But I don't want to smooth this out. I want this to be quite craggy and also look very, very textured. And I'm going to cover up all the areas where I've got paper, because we don't need those bits of paper showing through, and this will help to cover those up. Now, I'm not going to put scales on this because I don't think it needs it, because I want it to be like that sort of texture. But what I'm going to do definitely is go through with my smaller knife like this and put a lot more scrags into it, so it doesn't look like a cake. And once I've got a nice layer on, that is when I can start to do that, and I've got it everywhere I need it to be. I've also decided that I'm going to extend the mouth to there, because if not, it looks like it's only got a little tiny mouth. So now I've got that on there in a thick enough layer, I can then get my other knife like this and start bringing that through, giving it a lot more texture all the way everywhere, like that. It's all finished now being decorated, and I'm really pleased with how it's come out. But the proof is actually going to be in whether it looks great once it's painted, and who knows. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to coat the whole thing in black, because that will allow me to get all the dark highlights in once I go over and do the painting techniques. All I'm using here is an acrylic paint, and everything is going to go, as I said, black. I don't want any white or paper showing whatsoever. Well, now is the really fun bit, or the nerve-wracking bit as well, because I am, as you know, colourblind, and I have no idea what this is going to look like. What I want to do is have this in reds and yellows and oranges. So I've mixed up an orange using some red and yellow, and I've also got my red and yellow paint. I want some of this black in these deeper details to show through. So how I'm going to do this really is by working on these sides, going over and doing some patches like this, then leaving that to dry, and then I'll go over it with some yellow, and then I'm going to put a colour wash on. But I'll also want some highlights and different bits and pieces as well once that is on there. It's semi-dry brushing I'm doing here over this black with this red and the orange. The horns, I think I'm going to do a different colour, probably a grey or something similar to a grey. I want the horns to really stand out. And I'm going to take my time over this. I'm not just going to try and rush this. So once that's dry, I can go over it with some yellow. But while it's slightly damp, I am going to go over with a bit of orange. That will lighten that up. As you can see, I'm not actually doing this in a smooth stroke on the fleshy part, certainly. Now, with a bit of yellow going in there as well. So that's how I'm going to finish off the actual fleshy parts and all around the eyes and everywhere. And then once I've done that, I'll show you how I'm going to do the horns and then put the added details and the highlights and different bits and pieces in. Getting there now with it. I've kind of finished off the texture here. I might put a few more highlights in. I've still got the eyes to do because I want them to really stand out. And I've changed my mind about having the horns white. I really like this iridescent black paint from Arteza. So I've painted them in black. What I'm going to do is let these dry and then go over it with a metallic-y silver colour and dry brush that over and put some detail on there and see how that looks. I did too with the silver dry brushing, and actually I'm not really sure I like that silver, so I've gone over that silver with some gold dry brushing, and I really like that. I think the silver, the black and the gold do so much more than just the silver. So I've got some gold paint, and all I'm doing is putting a little bit on the brush and then going over it with that gold. So it picks up on those highlighted areas. I think the combination of the two works well. What do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think I should have left it silver, or am I doing the right thing here by using the gold as well? I'm going to go along. I'm going to do all the horns with it in the same way and see how I like them, and then if I don't like them, I will go over and just paint them all a bone coloured white and see how I like that. But don't have to stick with what we do the first time, do we? The dragon's nearly finished now. All I'm going to do is put a little bit of bronze metallic paint dry brushed onto all the horns, really to give it another colour and dimension more than anything. I'm going to go all the way through all the horns doing that. And while that's drying, what I'm going to do now is try and bring these eyes to life a little bit more, because they're a bit flat at the moment, even though I've put some highlights in. So what I'm going to be using is the low viscosity UV resin here. And all I'm going to do for this is paint that on the inside part of the eye. That will really give that a great shine. I'll probably do 2 coats because I'm going to have it quite thin. It'll be amazing how much that will give it a great finish and shine. That's the eyes. They've really got a great shine to them now. I think they stand out much better now they've got that shine to them. What I'm also going to do is with this satin varnish, so it's not gloss and it's not matte, I'm going to go over all the flesh areas, but not the horn areas, because I think they look quite nice in this like semi-matte finish. And this is a clear drying acrylic varnish that will dry lovely and hard as well, so it will protect that acrylic paint on there, but it'll also give it much nicer finish than that dull matte finish. It'll make all the highlights, I think, and the lowlights stick out a lot more than they would if I didn't go over it like this. I may use a little bit of some gloss varnish as well in certain areas where I want them to shine just that little bit more. And I'm only using 1 coat of this. I think that should be enough. Well, it's all finished now. It's all finished being varnished, and I've mounted him onto the wall, and he looks amazing. I love it. The details on it have come out really well. Boom that like button if you've enjoyed this project. Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that little bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, because who knows what I'm going to be crafting or making. Take care. Enjoy your crafting. Bye.